This is my choose your own adventure game in Python, and it's based on Scooby Doo, and it's named Scooby Doo. We import random, which basically makes it so we can use random numbers, which is very helpful in our project here. And then define chance. Chance, we have a value here, so I could put in, this is a parameter in the function, so I could put in 10, and then it will generate a random number from 1 to chance value, in this case 1 to 10. And if the random value is equal to 1, then it will return true. If it returns true, that would be a 1 in 10 chance, which basically gives us a percentage. So we can use this later on. And then we define make enemy. Making enemies is going to be very important, as I wanted to incorporate a lot of fighting scenes, but I actually ran into some issues with that. So I made one fighting scene, and the rest was pretty finished, and it was a pretty well-rounded story anyways. And basically, we can have parameters such as the max power, the max health, and the number of enemies. This creates a monster list, so this will keep track of all the monsters that we create. So if we create like 32 monsters, then it'll keep track of every single one of those. Monster types, and it just goes into this list, so it's easier to find. And then monster types is a dictionary, which I found how to do on this website. And then we have the different names here. So we have vampire, ghost, zombie, werewolf, or ogre, and the corresponding numerical values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we have a loop here, which will repeat for the number of monsters that we want, and it will basically make the monsters as we need them. So we would have monster type equals random.randint 1 to 5. So this will basically choose a random number 1 to 5 to assign it a name or monster type. Then the monster name is equivalent to the monster types, which is here. Then monster type, which would be this. So this would be monster type. So out of this dictionary here of numbers, it would be no monster type, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is this right here. So, for example, if monster type was 3, then it would be monster name is equal to one of the names in monster type dictionary, and then that would be 3, so which would be zombie. And then monster power is equivalent to random.randint, 0 to max power. So that means the max power is whatever you put the parameter as, and then the minimum is 0. Then the health follows the exact same thing. Then this is creating a dictionary to store the name of the monster, the power of the monster, and the health of the monster. And then monster append monster makes it so then the monsters here will go into this list up here, so we can find it later. And then return monsters basically makes it so then we can access this outside of this function. And then attack, player stats. Player stats has your health, if you have a knife, if you don't have a knife, if you have a handle, if you don't have a handle. Those are important later on. Our attack power is set to 10 as a default, and if player stats knife, so that means this will be checking if the player has a knife, and if it is true, then our attack power will have 15 added to it, and along with this, if we have a handle as well, then our attack power will be another 10 on top of that, or just 10 on our base value, and then we would return attack power so we know our attack power later on. Defining damage will basically be the damage dealt to the player, and then we have player stats, which is basically the stats of the character, and then attack, which is the attack by the monster. And our player stats health, so this is basically saying in the list of player stats, we're looking at the, I forget what it's called, but the thing in the list, one of the things on the list, health, minus attack. So this will be reducing our health in the list of player stats by the attack. And if the health goes below 0, if it's equal to or below 0, then it will die, and then die function down here is stated later. I'll go over this, but it'll basically say you died of fatal injury. And then it will return player stats, so it'll return the updated health. And then define heal, this is basically this, but opposite, and there's no checking for death in this situation, and return as well. And defining die, so we have our parameter here, so we can change the death message that we get. And it'll basically print F, which is our actually an F. This is an F string, I think. I'm not sure. I don't remember the exact name, but basically this allows us to put this into here, and not get a syntax error, and we use the squiggly brackets instead of the normal brackets. And basically, it will put our death reason in there. The squiggly brackets disappear, and whatever this variable is set to, it will put in there. So if we said death reason like coconut fell on head, then it will be like you died of coconut fell on head instead of this. And it's just a lot faster. And we use this a lot later on. And the website I found this on is mentioned later on. I don't have the URL up here, but I'll find it down later. And then it'll exit the game, which will stop the game. And then here is where we get into our story. Every single chunk of the story is basically a function, and then it goes to a different function, as you can see over here. I'll explain the rest later. But basically, we start the story. So when you hit start story, you'll just go. And then we set our player stats, which is health to 100, knife to false, and handle to false because we don't have any of these at the beginning. And then scene equals three quotations, and then we have our text here. I did this because honestly it's just easier to see all this, and it's easier to edit, and it's just easier to format. And then scene equals this, and then we do print scene, and then we do choice equals input, enter 1 2 3 4 1 2 3, and those would be these options here. So that's basically setting choice to the input that the person gives. If choice 1, it will do one function. If choice 2, it will do another function, and if choice 3, it will do a different function. And then if it's none of them, if you like type in tomato or something, then it will return invalid choice, try again, because it does not follow any of these over here. And then it will run this function again. And yeah, and all of these down here, exact same, just follow the same format over and over again until we get to the end of the story. But then there's other stuff like attacking in different different game mechanics. So once I get to that, I'll start explaining this. This is all just the same stuff over and over again. And I think it's over here. Yeah, pick up knife. This is when things get interesting. So this is near when the story rejoins because it goes into 3, then 9, then 1 again. So all of this is the 12 different, this is the 12 possibilities that you could get. And then over here, pick up knife. This is when you're in the main room again. You can pick up a knife off the ground. And this basically just brings player stats into our function so we can alter them. And then we have scene 1, which is the first thing that could happen because there's a chance. There's 2 different things that could happen when you pick up the knife. And then there's the second one. First one, you pick up the knife, feels heavy in your hands, good job. Second one, you get tetanus and take 10 damage. And then this is our chance. So if chance 5, so this is a 1 in 5 chance of success, then it will print scene 1 and then set our knife status to true. So this will basically say in our list of player stats, knife is going to be true. And then else, print scene 2, which is this, the tetanus one. It will say player stats knife false. It won't change anything. Then damage player stats 10. So basically damage the person, damage yourself by 10. And then scene 3 is basically saying what do you want to do? Because this is an option that doesn't affect the rest of the game. And then yeah, so it's basically unchanging. So then you'll ask you this, and then you can either examine the painting or look at the piano. Then, same thing as before, all the other functions, exact same. Now, this follows the same thing over and over again, but when we get to monsters, attack monster piano, this is where things get interesting. This is the actual combat mechanics of the game. So we basically see, we bring the list player stats, and we bring the list monsters. So basically, while player stats, health, so this is while our health is greater than 0, and the monster health is greater than 0, and the second monster health is greater than 0, it will be running this code. And our attack power is set to the attack power of the player stats, or attack power is equal to attack player stats. So that's just basically looking at our player stats and saying that our attack is equivalent to our attack power is equivalent to our attack stats in this. And then if monster is 0, so the first monster health is greater than 0 and the second monster health is greater than 0, it will print out this here, and this is another F string, F strings, and this is the website that I got them from. And it'll basically say you prepare to fight the monster name. This is basically saying this monster, you're fighting this monster, and the second monster name. So it'll basically say like zombie and like, I don't know, ghoul. And then it'll print out, oh, and then it will say that you take the damage from the monster, which is basically the power that the monster had, and you deal your attack power. And then you take damage from the other one, and then you deal your attack power to the other, and then it'll set first monster health, it will subtract your attack, and the second monster health will subtract your attack. And then it'll damage you, so damage player stats, monster 0 power. So this is basically saying, this is the damage function from before. It's altering your player stats. And then it's changing your health by monster 0. So the first monster damage by the second plus the second monster damage. And then it'll say your health here. It'll print out your health. And then it'll print out the health of the monsters as well. And then else, if the first monster health is less than or equal to 0 and the second monster health is greater than 0, that means that the second monster is alive. It'll say that you defeated the first monster, but the second one is still standing. And then you basically fight with that one and fight with the second one. So it's shorter code. Same principles as this one. This one's the inverse. So if the first monster is alive, but the second one's dead, it'll do that. Just go through the same thing. And then if both of the monsters are dead, it'll print out, congrats, you won. You also heal 10 health after the battle. And then it will heal you by 10. This is the function before. And then it'll break, which will exit the loop. And then at this, it will say if player stats health. So this is checking if you're dead by the end of the battle. And then if your health is greater than or equal to 0, then, or if your health is less than or equal to 0, then it will say die, and then it's the cause of death is the monsters. And else it'll say that you've defeated all the monsters, the room falls silent, victory message, and then it'll print this. Then you'll go into this final part of the game. And these are the two variations of the choices that you could do leading up to the monster attack, and basically all of them just lead to the back to the same thing. Except with block, you can gain health because you have an item, so that's basically your defense. Then you go back to this. The max health of the enemy is, the max power is 10, the max health is 30, and then there's 2 enemies. And then find trapped person is another function, and this is basically our dialogue, print scene, choice input. The first choice, you free the person, thank you profusely, you go home together, and then your final score is actually your health. So that's pretty cool. And then if you choose the second one, then you will take 10 damage as punishment for not going home with the person because you have nightmares after that because you left them behind, and you will say your score. And then else, invalid input. And then basically this is the start of the game, so this is when you can start the game, and this is all you need to do. The rest is just in the functions. As you can see, this is my code. This is it running right here. So in this circumstance, I'd step inside cautiously, look for a key. I would say, honestly, pick up the knife. Quietness, okay. Only have one option here, piano. And this is the attack sequence. So I prepare to fight the vampire and ogre, take 8 damage, deal 10, take another 5 damage and deal 10. I'm at 77 health. The vampire's at 11 and the ogre's at -9, so the ogre's dead. But the vampire's still standing. You take 8 damage, and then I deal 10. You're at 69 health, and the vampire's at 1 health. You defeat the ogre, but the vampire's still standing. You take 8 damage and deal 10. You're at 61 health. The vampire at -9. Defeated all the monsters. Dust settles. Faint cry. I'm gonna say I'm actually gonna help the person, free the person in this circumstance. And I got a final score of 61. So yeah, I can run it again and again. There's a bunch of different paths that you can go down. For example, convince the game to leave and come back later. I can try and call him for help, look at the piano, run in this circumstance. When you run away, escaping through a nearby door, it forces you to go through the fight sequence just because it's pretty interesting. I can ignore, and then I would get a final score of 80. You can run over and over again. There's so many different ways too. So for this one here, there's 3 different choices after going. So there's 3 choices from the first, 3 from this, 3 from this, 3 from this. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 12. 12 off the beginning, and then after that it goes into one path. So yeah, thank you for watching my presentation on Ski